Ladies and gentlemen, this next segment of the podcast is brought to you by the Heritage Foundation. For over 50 years, the Heritage Foundation has been America's outpost in Washington, fighting against the D.C. federal bureaucracy and working to secure a future that allows Americans to flourish. You see, for too long, conservative principles have been ignored by many of the very leaders claiming to fight for America. But the Heritage Foundation is proud to hold our leaders accountable and stand up for America's founding principles, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. It's amazing all the people trying to reach me when all I do is post and speak the truth on radio and TV. Apparently I'm confused about things, you see, America. I'm as clear-eyed as ever. I am poised. I'm on my toes, clear-eyed as ever. See what's going on with India and Pakistan now? I mean, they can come to real blows, and they have in the past, and they're both nuclear powers. I think my friend Charlie Kirk, and he is my friend, and he is pro-Israel. I think he said the other day, if I read correctly, that India and Pakistan have nuclear weapons. What about Iran? I think the great foreign policy genius, Margaret Taylor Greene, she put out a whole list of why she hates America and why we, or the imperialists, the colonialists, and everybody but her and everybody before her was a bonehead. It's good to know. I believe she wants to be a member of the United States Senate. The reason we don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon with intercontinental ballistic missiles is that they keep threatening the United States. That seems to me to be very rational, sane, that a country, a third world country, that has no air force, has no ability to defend its nuclear sites, but we're being told to swear off, we'll work out a deal of all deals, with terrorists, who of course always comply with deals. And by the way, they can have nuclear power if they use it for civilian purposes, you know, and for energy, which apparently is why they have a 350-foot deep bunker at their biggest site. Because isn't that where most nuclear utilities operate from, 350 feet under the ground? With advanced centrifuges? Of course. Now, we're not stupid, Mr. and Mrs. America. We're not going to be played. Whatever decisions are made. But we're not going to be stupid. No, America is not a bad country. Now, the other thing is about Iran. I really don't understand this. Iran, maybe they can be part of the world economy, you know, once we have an agreement or something. Iran is a terrorist state. Its people hate the regime. And so I'm sitting here thinking, what happened to the anti-globalism? What happened to we should have no democracy projects? Now I'm hearing about a democracy project without democracy. We don't want that regime to be successful, because if it's successful, it means the people in the country are going to continue to be raped and tortured and murdered. You can have a hands-off policy with respect to regime change, but you don't affirmatively reinforce the regime, do you? Am I missing something there? So democracy project without the democracy, just a project? We welcome you into the world economy. Just behave yourself. Now, when you're part of the fifth column isolationist brigades, your positions become increasingly untenable, increasingly stupid. And it's a grave threat to me and you, Mr. and Mrs. America, the people of the United States. It is a grave threat, this ideology. This ideology. We do not want a nuclear war. We do not want our country hit by nuclear weapons. We do not want the complete obliteration of hundreds of millions of Americans that right now would be unstoppable if somebody had an intercontinental hypersonic missile with a nuclear warhead on its tip. Maybe they'll have 6 missiles, maybe 10, maybe over time 100. Only takes one. You don't play Iranian roulette with a terrorist regime that keeps talking about destroying us. Look at Pakistan now. Pakistan is loaded with terrorists. India is actually a democracy. Now, maybe they don't control the terrorists who attacked India, and didn't just attack India, hit population and tourist centers, and India said enough of this crap. Pakistan, or at least parts of it, has a close relationship with the Taliban. The Taliban have a very close relationship with the Iranians and the Qataris. Now, count me as opposed to playing footsie with all these terrorist regimes. There's just too damn much at stake. Very simple. Some reputable pollster, maybe there's one or two of them left, they ought to put out a question to the American people. Do you support Iran having a nuclear warhead on an intercontinental ballistic missile that can hit the United States or not? And you know what you're going to get? 98% of the American people, with immigration and all, let me change that. 89% of the American people will say, of course not. Of course not. So you and I, we're on the right side of this. It's called sanity. It's called intelligence. We're not ideologues. It's called prudence. It's that simple. This civilian use of nuclear power by Iran. We're not stupid. Civilian use of nuclear power by Iran. Tell me, how many nations, and I'll repeat what I've said before here, how many nations that have a civilian use for nuclear power are we currently negotiating with to ensure that they don't get nuclear weapons? One, Iran. The others aren't seeking nuclear weapons. Iran is. How is it that the disreputable, terrorist-supporting, anti-American, Jew-hating United Nations has a stronger position than the fifth column isolationists in our own country? They know that the Iranians are trying to build nukes. Why? Because they banned scientists from seeing certain of their sites. Now, it's one thing if you're an ideologue and this is your position. Iran can get a nuke. It just has to be managed. I think that's kind of the position of my buddy Charlie Kirk. If I'm wrong, he can text me and tell me, but I think that's what I heard him say. But if that's the position, say it, defend it, explain it. But, as others do, don't lie to us. Charlie doesn't lie. If that's his position, he says it. But others are lying. If that's your position, say it. Iran can get a nuke. Iran can get a nuke. But we're going to negotiate a deal. Now, ladies and gentlemen, they're deals and they're deals. How many deals with terrorists last? Can you name one? How many deals with the Palestinian terrorists have lasted? Not one. Not one. How many deals with any terrorist regime last? None. They're terrorists. They don't comply with the law. They're going to, we have a contract. We have a deal. We're going to honor it. No, they're not. They're buying time. The North Koreans bought time. Pakistanis bought time. They're buying time. No, I'm sorry. This is called reality. You know, I love these guys. They have a realist foreign policy. I am Mr. Realist. I am Mr. Reality. Mr. Reality. You're listening to Mr. Reality right now. They're the ideologues. Their position is ideological, which means no matter what happens, no matter who says what, that's their position. And they're not going to move off the point. Fine. I'm not interested in them. It's not my life's role and goal to influence boneheads. But I will do what I can in my little way, behind a microphone, behind a television camera, on the internet, with the tens of millions of people who listen to this, to alert you so you can draw your own conclusions. I will never lie to you. The Iranians are not interested in civilian nuclear power. Period. They're not. They don't need it. They have no infrastructure for it. Nothing. They're 350 feet in a bunker underneath the earth, among other places. That's the reality. That's real foreign policy. As Pakistan and India have drawn swords, nuclear swords, we don't ever want Iran drawing nuclear swords with us, do we? And don't blame the Jews, and don't blame the Israelis, and don't blame Gerald Ford, and Dwight Eisenhower, and George Washington, and Iraq, and Vietnam, and North. Hey, focus. This is what the fifth column isolationists I'm talking to. Focus! Stop throwing the shiny objects. It ain't going to work. My audience, you. Red-blooded Americans. Many of you have fought in many of these wars. You voted. We got the vote out. We got the man who we wanted. We didn't vote for all these Lilliputians and these reprobates, the whispers, the special pleaders for Iran, the special pleaders for Qatar, the special pleaders for Ben and Jerry's, for God's sakes. We didn't vote for the anti-Semites. We didn't vote for the anti-Americans. No, we didn't. You can say this about Donald Trump. He loves this country and he loves the American people. You don't have to agree with everything he does, although I've agreed with an awful lot of it. But you know he acts from love of country. Some people do not. You've got people, the fifth column isolationists, who sound like Bernie Sanders. They have the Bernie Sanders foreign policy. They sound like the squad when it comes to economic policy. They sound like socialists, protectionists. That's not we constitutional conservatives. That's not Make America Great Again, which started in the second Reagan term and has been embraced fully by Donald Trump. That's not populism. Insanity is not populism. Self-destruction is not populism. There's nothing popular about it. I guarantee you, the vast majority of the American people, you do not want an Islamo-Nazi regime threatening Americans, the same ideology that took out our towers in New York, tried to take out our Pentagon and did grave damage, tried to take out the White House or Capitol with that plane the heroes took down in central Pennsylvania. The Jews didn't do that. The Israelis didn't do that. The neocons, the warmongers, the enemy did it. The enemy did it. And the enemy's still there. And now they want a nuclear weapon. What do you say, America? Is that okay with you? I don't think so. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, the first 100-plus days of the Trump presidency has been astonishing, and the Heritage Foundation has been keeping track. Americans were sick and tired of the status quo in Washington, D.C., and that had led to a border crisis and an erosion of family life in America. They sent President Trump back to Washington with a mandate to restore American greatness. And the good news is that America's back. Now, if you want to see exactly how he did it, go to heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/Levin. To get your free list of Trump's 100 wins in 100 days. The Heritage Foundation has been counting wins in the first 100 days since President Trump's new administration took office. And I'm sure you can name many of those wins, from taking steps to secure our border to cutting government waste. But the Heritage Foundation has a comprehensive list of the top 100 wins so far. So go to heritage.org/Levin and get your list. That's heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Well, I guess I called it, didn't I, Mr. Producer? My so-called speculation last night about this Houthi situation. And if I can find what you sent me here, Rich, that I had you cut and paste for me so I could actually read the damn thing. Here it is. Here it was. I'll have to do it after. No, here it is. Headline, Times of Israel, Iran pressed Houthis into truce with U.S. to build momentum in nuclear talks. Something didn't smell right here. Why would the Houthis all of a sudden say, just days before the talks begin again with Iran, and 2 days after they hit the airport in Tel Aviv, 2 Iranian officials say Tehran persuaded Yemen rebel group to stop attacking U.S. shipping. Washington sources say Oman-mediated move aimed at furthering nuclear negotiations. Iran leaned on the Houthis to reach a truce with the U.S. over attacks in the Red Sea in a move aimed at pushing along negotiations for an agreement over Tehran's nuclear program, according to reports. But it gets even stranger than that, quite frankly, America. In fact, much stranger than that. Yemen update. Mahdi al-Mashtah, chairman of the Supreme Political Council, Houthis Presidential Council, stated that they have indirectly informed the United States that continued escalation would affect President Trump's planned visit to the region, emphasizing this was the only message conveyed. He added that whether Trump chooses to halt his operations and address its consequences is entirely his decision. Meanwhile, Mohammed Abdulsalam, head of Yemen's negotiating delegation and key spokesman, reaffirmed that Yemen's military operations in support of Gaza will not stop, that is, their attacks on Israel. He said the Americans involved themselves in backing the Israeli enemy. He also noted that the U.S. had communicated through Oman, but the only thing that had shifted was the American stance, not Yemen's. He dismissed recent American claims of a supposed surrender, stating it is a reflection of Washington's failure and inability to protect Israeli shipping. What is really shipping? The world shipping goes through there. He concluded by saying that their support for Gaza will only grow stronger, and on and on and on. These people are defiant. This is a tactical move to try and get this negotiation underway, which it did. Now try and get a deal. And we shall see how this proceeds. But I sniffed this out last night. It just didn't make sense to me what was taking place. And there it is. It's confirmed by Iran and the Houthis, of all people. I'll be right back. Folks, if you're like me, you've been closely watching President Trump's first 100 days, watching as he fulfills his campaign promises and the mandate he was given by the American people. And I'm happy to report that the Heritage Foundation identified 100 of President Trump's biggest wins for Americans in his first 100 days in office. Now, if you go to heritage.org/Levin today, that's heritage.org/Levin, you can get your free copy of the Heritage Foundation's list of Trump's 100 wins in 100 days. Everyone knows some of what he's done, from securing the border to protecting women and girls in sports. But you have to see the full list of what his administration has accomplished in only 100 days. It's truly astonishing. I've seen this list. You need to go see it too. Go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Get your free copy of 100 wins in 100 days. That's heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
The Mark Levin Show, live and national at 877-381-3811.
I don't know who Danny Savalos is. They say he's an MSNBC legal analyst. I don't know what his views have been on anything else, but his views on due process were correct. We're right on when it comes to illegal immigrants. We have a senator from Oklahoma, Lankford, who has no friggin' idea what he's talking about when it comes to due process. Neither does the befuddled Lawrence Tribe, the Joe Biden of the retired Harvard Law School professoriate. I did spend some time on one of my monologues recently on my Fox program and here explaining in great detail due process. That no, everybody doesn't get due process, number one. Number two, the due process depends on circumstances. Sometimes it's just a formality. Sometimes it's just a show up and then out the door you go. Sometimes it's bigger than that. But for the Democrats and the left, they want to use full-blown due process that's applicable to citizens in every one of these instances in order to ensure you have 21 million people who get backdoor amnesty. That is revolution by immigration. And backdoor amnesty means, unless the Supreme Court fixes this, and I don't think they will, birthright citizenship. The Constitution does not have birthright citizenship, but doesn't seem to matter anymore. So if you have birthright citizenship with all these illegal aliens, and then chain migration on top of that, it's over. It's over. It's that simple. It's over. So Danny Savalos, it has MSNBC, a.k.a. MSLSD, legal analyst, on the Morning Schmo Show. I wouldn't normally play this, but the guy actually said the truth, actually said what is the truth. And we have legal analysts, even on our own side, who don't know what the hell they're talking about. Cut 9. Go.
Federal law allows for even broader and speedy removal than has been used in the past. And expedited removal, as you talked about, allows for summary removal. That means... Hold on.
Summary removal. Now, what's that based on? Federal law. And there's nothing unconstitutional about it. Zero. It's been used. It's been in place long before Donald Trump was president the first time, which means long before he was president the second time. Got it? Go ahead.
Hearing, possibly within 24 hours. It hasn't been used as broadly as, say, the Trump administration might want to use it, but under the statute, it is permissible to remove aliens who arrive at the border, and even those who have been here for 2 years, although that 2-year provision you talked about is the lesser used in practice. But just because it isn't used very often doesn't mean it's not a part of federal law that can be used. And it will be used because it's permitted under federal law.
Stop there. Stop right there. I've said this myself. It seems to go over the heads of many of these people. It's in federal law. I've also explained that the Supreme Court has issued several opinions involving when, if, and how due process applies, most of which provides no consistent policy. But anyway, go ahead.
System decided that aliens who arrive at the border, and they define people who arrive at the border as people who have even been here 2 years, if they have fraudulent documents, if they don't have sufficient documents, they can be removed in an expedited fashion unless they seek asylum. So,
Stop. Right. So they can be removed on the spot. because they have phony documents. Let me give you an example. If you're an American citizen and you're in the car and you have a phony driver's license and you're stopped, you can be immediately arrested and sent to jail. Now you'll get a hearing and all the other things that follow, but for the time being, you'll go to jail. If you're an illegal alien, you come across the country and you have phony documents, you could be snatched and removed. There's no reason for a hearing other than a rubber stamp. Go ahead.
To those due process concerns, at least presumably because that statute, as it exists today, is still valid. Now, that's not what's at stake with the Venezuelans and the Alien Enemies Act. But the government's argument is that, hey, court, listen, you're telling us we need to provide notice. Well, take a look at this federal law. It says that we don't even need to have a hearing. It can happen within 24 hours. So if that's good enough for people who arrive here who are aliens, it's certainly okay for people that the president has deemed to be alien enemies.
So let's stop here. You understand the president has plenary power here. He's got enormous power, not just this president, any president. I remember when the state of Arizona was trying to force the Obama administration, when the governor there was trying to force the Obama administration to apply Section 287. I don't need to get into the weeds, but to apply the section of the statute that required local and federal government to work together, that is ICE and local authorities or state authorities, to detain and remove people who are here illegally. The Obama administration wouldn't do that. So the lawsuit was brought by Arizona, and the Supreme Court said, sorry, Arizona, basically the feds have plenary power here. You don't. So now it's the reverse. Okay, plenary power. So the president of the United States is saying, okay, you're out of here. You Venezuelan gang members, you're terrorists. You've been sent here by Maduro. Get out of here. No, you don't understand. What? What changed? What are you talking about? He used an old law. Well, that old law is newer than the Constitution. They keep citing due process under the First Amendment, the Bill of Rights adopted by the first Congress and then sent to the states for ratification. That's older than the law that they're saying is too old. That's number one. Number two, the president has every authority to say this is an invasion when another country is sending its people into this country. The word war is not in the statute. It's not war. It's invasion. That's what immigration's about. The movement of people. An invasion. Go ahead. That's it. So this guy was pretty good. He said more, but this guy was pretty good. But then there's James Lankford. Now remember Lankford. Lankford was the stooge. I say with all due respect, Lankford was the stooge who did Mitch McConnell's bidding. Remember this, Mr. Producer? Who put together that phony bipartisan bill. Phony bipartisan bill that even McConnell decided to vote against. Coward. They gave the store away when they pretended it didn't. That enshrined in the federal code the actions that Biden had been taking. Even worse. Because you see, the border was secure until it wasn't secure. Then they blamed the Republicans. They blamed Trump. Even though 6 Senate Democrats voted against it too. As I tried to explain again and again and again. But it doesn't matter. It's all a lie. Took willpower. It took Donald Trump. He secured the border. The border is just as tight as it ever has been. It's never going to get any tighter. That's how amazing Trump and his policies are here. Amazing. And it just took the president to do it. No new laws or anything. The whole thing was a ruse. It was a scam. And Lankford was the point guy for the Republicans. And now he's here. Listen to this. Cut 10, go.
What's been confusing on this is some people see due process like as an American citizen. that's a right to a jury trial. That's all those different things. That's not true for due process for someone who's not a citizen of the United States. It's a different process. It's often just literally what people call an immigration judge is not a typical federal judge or a state judge. This is someone that's in the bureaucracy, that their task for DHS is that task on it. So they're a government employee career. That's an immigration judge. So it's a very different process for it. But yes, there's a need to be able to give an opportunity for someone to be able to make an argument before they're removed in the country.
No, but not in all cases. You heard the other lawyer. You've heard me. That's not what the Supreme Court has said in every instance. It's simply not. It's simply not. And don't lecture people like me. Some people think it's full due process. It's the left that wants full due process in order to kill the system. Cloward and Piven, overwhelm the system, destroy the system. Because we can't handle that. When the Democrats are talking about due process, they're not talking about administrative due process. They're not talking about this law that Congress passed. An old law still applies, you know. The Magna Carta still applies. The Bible still applies. But this law, you know, this old law, there they are dragging out the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871 and throwing it at Donald Trump. Oh, that's an old law, but that's a good old law. These people are frauds and phonies. By the way, why does anybody go on CNN? I don't understand why Republicans go on CNN. They literally have no ratings. They have no audience, America. I see the ratings. There's nobody there. Why do they go on CNN? I don't understand it. And what happens is CNN does their gotchas. They get clips. They push it out. But I'm a tough politician, you know. I'll go anywhere. I'll take on anybody. I don't get it. Why go there? At least MSNBC has standards. They're hardcore Marxist Islamists, and they stick with it. They don't want to hear from this Republican or another Republican, just the backstabbers. Just the anti-Trumpers. Those are the only Republicans they want. But at least they have standards, Marxist Islamist standards. They're evil standards, don't get me wrong, but CNN, there's no reason for CNN to exist, let alone MSNBC. But CNN, I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, the first 100-plus days of the Trump presidency has been astonishing, and the Heritage Foundation has been keeping track. Americans were sick and tired of the status quo in Washington, D.C., and that had led to a border crisis and an erosion of family life in America. They sent President Trump back to Washington with a mandate to restore American greatness. And the good news is that America's back. Now, if you want to see exactly how he did it, go to heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/Levin. To get your free list of Trump's 100 wins in 100 days. The Heritage Foundation has been counting wins in the first 100 days since President Trump's new administration took office. And I'm sure you can name many of those wins, from taking steps to secure our border to cutting government waste. But the Heritage Foundation has a comprehensive list of the top 100 wins so far. So go to heritage.org/Levin and get your list. That's heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Kash Patel, FBI director, he's at a budget hearing today, and these Democrats are really loathsome, thoroughly loathsome. Cut 11, go.
As you and the president continue to weaponize and investigate his perceived enemies, as you follow this blueprint, when can I, a former impeachment manager, expect the FBI at my door?
Ma'am, you want to know who was targeted by a weaponized FBI? Me. You want to know how and why?
Well, you
want to know what I'm doing to fix it?
That. Let me move on.
Well, you should read the book, because there's no enemies list on that book.
So
there are people that violated their constitutional obligations and their duties to the American people.
That's good.
And they were rightly called out. And you should give that book to every one of your constituents so they can read about it.
I won't be doing that.
That's their loss.
Now, that's the way you answer these bastards. Cut 12, go.
During your Senate confirmation hearings, you repeatedly denied having any involvement as a private citizen in the firing of FBI officials who engaged in the prosecution against January 6th insurrectionists. The violent rioters who beat and killed Capitol
They're not January
police
6th insurrectionists. They weren't charged with insurrection, and they didn't beat and kill police officers. Anybody who committed act of violence should serve prison time. That is, beat a police officer. I agree with that. But I don't remember any officer being beaten and killed. I remember a protester being shot and killed. I remember that. All of a sudden, they're worried about cops. You know, the Democrat Party, they forget all about 2020. Precincts burning down, cops were killed, other people killed, riots, arson, brutality. Now, all of a sudden, they defend cops. This Democrat Party is worse than schizophrenic. I told you before, they're Sybil. They got 23 personalities. All of them suck. Go ahead.
And whom you referred to as political prisoners. Since then, multiple whistleblowers have come forward, and we know that you likely committed perjury. At the same hearing, you claimed you were not familiar with Stu Peters, an anti-Semitic Holocaust denier, despite the fact that you appeared on Mr. Peters' podcast 8 separate times. 8 times. And you claimed not to recall. Mr. Patel, my second question is, should we worry more about your memory or your veracity?
We should worry more about your lack of candor. You're accusing me of committing perjury. Tell the American people how I broke the law and committed a felony. Have the audacity to actually put the facts forward instead of lying for political banter so you can have a 20-second donation hit.
The answer is both. I believe that the
answer is you're failing, not me.
I reclaim my time.
Go ahead.
By the way, I saw this Stu Peters guy, this clip that was presented to me by my executive producer on The Blaze. This guy is a complete lowlife. What a pig. What a pig. What a poisonous slime ball. That's right, you punk. I'm talking to you. You nothing. You're giraffe crap on the bottom of my sneaker. That's what you are. You're what's left in my Kleenex after I blow my nose, you little puke. Yeah, tough guy. Sick bastard. Really sick. There's a lot of sickos out there, America. A whole bunch of them. He's definitely one of them. And so Scott Bessent was at a House Financial Services Committee hearing. Now, I only have a minute left, so I can't get into this, but you got to hear some of this. So you can see the kinds of questions the Democrats are asking. They're very, very interested in getting to the bottom of serious subjects and issues, are they not? As they try to character assassinate every single Trump person that goes up and testifies. That would be the Democrat Party that call all of you neo-Nazis. That would be the Democrat Party that repeatedly lied to us about the mental health of Joe Biden. That's pretty outrageous, folks. If we could impeach them, we would have impeached them a long time ago, we the people. It is a party that embraces and uses as a symbol a man who repeatedly beat his wife, who's a member of MS-13, who is human trafficking, an illegal alien, Garcia. He's the face of the Democrat Party. He's the background of the Democrat Party. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Welcome back, America. Our number is 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. We'll be taking calls at some point during the end of the show. We have a special guest coming up in the third hour, Victoria Coates, with the Heritage Foundation, formerly with our dear friend Ted Cruz. She's excellent. Scott Bessent, the Secretary of the Treasury, he's testifying to the House Financial Services Committee, which is frightening when you hear how stupid these Democrats are. How utterly stupid they are. And let's start with one of the dumbest of them all, with one of the lowest IQs, Maxine Waters. Cut 13, go.
Do you know the level, type, or nature of the clearances and security training required for individuals to access the information held in the computers of Treasury, IRS, or CFPB?
Yes, I do, and I think we would have a disagreement over the definition of the word unfettered.
Mr. Secretary, did all the individuals working with DOGE who were given access to Treasury's and CFPB's computer databases receive all of the required clearances and security training before they were granted access?
Again, they were granted read-only access at Treasury. There were two. So
let me just say,
DOGE employees.
Please, you can't filibuster here. This is not
filibuster. He's trying to answer your stupid-ass question. Go ahead.
And so what you did was you let these strangers into our Treasury with access.
That's not what he did. That's not what he said. He said they're Treasury employees. They were trained. They got the clearances they needed to get. Oh, they're so worried about the confidentiality of information, except when it comes to Donald Trump's taxes. They're so worried about civil liberties, except when it comes to debates online and elsewhere, whether it's about vaccines or whether it's about the Hunter laptop. This is sick. This is a joke, isn't it? Go ahead.
The personnel information, and you just opened the door. Why'd you do that?
No, ma'am. They were Treasury employees.
Oh, are you saying today in front of this committee that all of them were Treasury employees, that the 25-year-old who's being identified, who worked for Elon Musk, was allowed into the Treasury? Was that person there?
He was a Treasury employee, as was Tom Krause, the senior person on the DOGE team. There were only two people.
There were DOGE employees also.
Sorry?
Do you know? Were you aware that there were DOGE employees?
Hold on. I didn't know that DOGE had employees, Mr. Producer. They don't have employees. They're employees of other agencies, if employees at all. Go ahead.
You're getting all of our personal information.
Well, ma'am, there is no such thing as a DOGE employee. There were Treasury employees.
I tend to disagree with you based on the information I have.
There's no disagreement. It's a fact. Playing gotcha again. They don't care about the economy, the country, the border. They don't care about anything. This is all you get. Go ahead. Let's go to cut 14 with Velazquez. I believe she's from L.A. Nadia, if I'm wrong, who cares? Actually, she's from New York. Cut 14, go.
Specifically, which countries are you close to striking deals with?
I'm sorry, Congresswoman, but that would not benefit the United States.
No. I'm asking you a question based on the statement that you made on CNBC.
And I am telling you that it would be detrimental to the interest of the United States for me to answer that question.
Why would that be detrimental?
Because as the negotiations may still be in process as we speak, as we are not at the end of the week yet, I am sure that you through your question, would not want to compromise U.S. negotiations.
Reclaiming my time.
Would you?
Secretary Besson, the president goes into a press conference and claims that there are negotiations going on. And then the next day,
let me try. Stay right where you are there on the audio. He's telling you he can't mention the countries because it might undermine the negotiations. The fact that the president says there are negotiations going on is not a contradiction of what this Treasury Secretary is trying to say. The problem is you're dumb as a stone. That's the problem. And you have staffers who write these questions for you, and you obviously don't read them in advance. Go ahead.
Going on. So why would you not answer my question? And that will be considered detrimental to the American people, to the American economy. I do not understand. Despite your claim...
I'm happy to say there are negotiations going on. I'm not going to reveal the details.
No filibuster. No filibuster.
Oh,
So-
she's getting advice from Waters. Don't filibuster. The guy's, what, has he said 3 words out of his mouth? Go ahead.
You think those negotiations will take before they are concluded? And
There are numerous countries, as I have said. If you saw my CNBC interview, which you referenced,
I didn't.
There
I
are
watch
18
CNBC. Go ahead.
trading partners, and we are moving forward at all deliberate speed with those.
Isn't this edifying, America? Aren't the Democrats? They're really digging into the substance. Now I can sleep at night. What was the point of this hearing, at least as far as the Democrats go? There was no point. Now, in addition to all this, they're out to destroy John Fetterman. John Fetterman has turned out to be a moderate. He has said, I've always been a moderate. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't really care. But he's met with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago. He's friends with Dave McCormick, our friend who's the Republican senator from Pennsylvania, was doing a was with McCormick when he was promoting his book and so forth. Seems like a pretty nice guy. Seems like he's recovered fully from the stroke that he had. But you see, here's the problem. The guy's pro-American and he's pro-Israel. And you can't have that. Not in the Democrat Party, neither of them. And every now and then, not often, very rarely, he'll vote with the Republicans. Very rarely, but he will. But he doesn't talk like the average Democrat in Congress today, you know. F-word every 4th word. Hitler every 3rd word. Stuff like that. He doesn't do that. He's not part of the Bernie Sanders cabal. The Ayach cabal. And so, of course, Manu Raju of the great CNN, the Constipated News Network, he's there with his microphone. This was a hit job done by a radical left wing. I don't even know if it's a magazine anymore. With apparently one anonymous source, or his chief of staff. I don't know if the chief of staff was anonymous or on the record, but that's about it. And so what they do here is try and exploit his past health challenges and say that they're back. They're back. You see, there's no low when it comes to the Democrats. It's just low all the time. Cut 19, go.
Now it's just a disgruntled group of people, and there's only one there. So that's the same thing. There's no new news involved for this.
The individual is your former chief of staff who has said that he's concerned about your well-being, which is why he went public. What do you say to some...
he's concerned. You're concerned about his well-being, and that's why you went public? Anybody buying that BS? This chief of staff is concerned about his own reputation in the Marxist Islamist Democrat Party circles. That's what the chief of staff's concerned about. Go ahead.
He's concerned about. He says he's concerned about your personal well-being.
It's like now he's had a weird grudge, and he has threatened to do this for quite a while. And if you're really concerned about someone, you could say, "Hey, let's sit down. Can we talk?" It's not like going to the media, and that's why somebody that has an agenda. It's like a hit piece.
So you've been public about your struggles with depression.
You see what I mean? Hold on. You see what I mean? Yes, he's playing right into Manju Raju. He's got he's a little shrimp, but he's a punk. And there he is. He's carrying the water for the disgruntled former employee, the chief of staff. That's what he's doing. Go ahead.
And you had a prescription regimen of drugs to take in the aftermath of your time.
This is really sorry. This is really, really sorry. What's being done to this Fetterman here. It's just terrible. Terrible. And they exploit the fact that people have had depression. People are taking drugs for depression. Can you imagine if some influencer, so-called putative Republican influencer, was questioning Fetterman like this? This isn't news, folks. This has nothing to do with news. Why is this newsworthy? It's not. You got a hit job going on. You have this CNN clown following up on it, then talking about you had depression or you still taking your meds. What is that? What is that? Of course, they had no interest. They weren't inquisitive in the least. No curiosity when it came to Biden. In fact, they knew all about Biden. And they lied and covered up, then covered up. Go ahead.
Keeping up with that, taking your medication.
I want to, my doctors are like, John is great. And I am on all of the plan that it's always been. And it's incredibly invasive. And why are people talking about anyone's personal medical things? It's that, I think most people would agree that's really, really invasive.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting. I don't know, Manu Raju. Are you taking any drugs? What kind of drugs are you taking? You married? Is your wife taking drugs? How about your kids? Any depression in your family? Any sexual diseases? I'm not saying there are. I doubt it. I've seen the guy. I seriously doubt it. I'm just saying. Just questions. As the fifth column likes to. I'm just asking questions. Just asking questions. That's all I'm doing. Asking questions. What a lowlife this guy is. He doesn't take the bait. He's not hooked. He is promoting this hit job. Anybody at CNN have depression, taking any drugs for depression? I'm curious. Anybody? Jake? Wolf Blitzer? He's got to be taking something, doesn't he, Mr. Producer, just to wake him up? That stellar cast of hey, over at MSLSD, looks like they're all on something over there, doesn't it? Their eyes bugging out of their head, the saliva dripping down their chin. Oh, yeah, MSLSD over there. Taking something. They will treat a wife-beating MS-13 human trafficker with all kinds of respect. But when it comes to a Clarence Thomas or a Donald Trump or John Fetterman and you are targeted, man, it's no holds barred, baby. Just keep it coming. Lie, smear. Just do it. That's Manu Raju, if that is his real name, over there at the Constipated News Network. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Don't get suckered into the same old free phone game by Big Wireless that comes with a lot of fine print, like requiring you to sign up for 4 lines plus activation fees, plus. And the end of the day, you've paid for that free phone 3 times over. Pure Talk is my sponsor, my wireless company. They have a much better offer. With a qualifying plan of just $35 a month, you can get a brand new Samsung Galaxy A26 for free. Now, this phone is virtually indestructible. Gorilla Glass captures beautiful wide-angle photos with next-generation camera lenses. All you need to do is switch to Pure Talk. For just $35 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, more than you'll ever need, with mobile hotspot, all on one of America's most dependable 5G networks. Go to puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plan when you switch to Pure Talk. Wireless by Americans for Americans. Oh, you're going to love this one. Federal judge orders Trump administration. Oh, hell. Hold on, I got to dismiss all these damn things. To import 12,000 aliens. Did you see that, Mr. Producer? This is a judge out of Baltimore. Yes, judge orders Trump to admit 12,000 aliens. Now, of course, he's a Democrat judge. Have you ever heard of a judge ordering a president of the United States to allow aliens into the country? Have you ever heard of anything like this? So in addition to stopping the president from deporting illegal aliens, criminals, in many cases, we have another judge ordering him to bring aliens into the country. into the country. Now, if this isn't fixed by the Supreme Court, and if it isn't fixed by Congress, then you can put an exclamation point behind what I've told you before, that we live in a post-constitutional America. Because this is a power grab by one branch of government against the others. And by the way, with the consent of the Democrats. With the consent of the Democrats. Now, I want to discuss something else with you. It's going on in my beloved's new home of Florida. And I'll start it now, and then I want to carry this forth after the break, because it's very important, particularly for your Floridians and others. For conservatives and Republicans, constitutionalists, whatever, all over the country. Florida, you have a fantastic governor. I call him America's governor, Ron DeSantis. I know because I live there most of the time. And the people of Florida know it. He is a true conservative. He has governed like a true conservative. No taxes have been raised. He wants to do away with a big chunk of the property taxes. Pro-law and order. It's one of the safest states in the country, despite its massive population and its growth. People want to move to Florida. When it comes to emergencies like hurricanes, there's nobody better. The guy is fantastic. He's absolutely fantastic. And he's been an executive. You know, not just a senator and a this. No, he's an executive. Over at the Federalist, there's a very important article. Very important article by Joy Pullman. I'm going to start it now, but we'll complete it after the bottom of the hour, because I want to show you how a state can be destroyed by RINOs who are working with Democrats. Republicans may be heading toward a non-confidence vote in Florida House Speaker Daniel Perez after he and other state legislators have spent this spring attempting to neuter policies that make Florida the national pace setter for effective governance. This includes efforts to hamper immigration enforcement. We had the governor on here talking about that. Protect education, waste and indoctrination, undo lawsuit limits, increase taxes, and smear conservatives. The drama includes an attempt to scandalize a charity Governor Ron DeSantis' wife, Casey, supports. She is a lovely lady, as honest as the day is long. Florida was very atypical for 6 years, and then now it's just going right back into typical mode, which is more like a Texas or an Indiana or a Georgia, a red legislature that we're going to do everything we can to bring Walmart's tax rate to the lowest level imaginable, and then do absolutely nothing to combat things that affect the quality of life for the middle class, says Anthony Sabatini, a Republican former state representative who is now a county commissioner outside of Orlando. I'm no fan of this guy Sabatini, but he's right on here, and when you're right, you're right. And I want to finish this because the Republican corporatists, establishment, and the Democrats are now working to destroy Florida. Don't get suckered into the same old free phone game by Big Wireless that comes with a lot of fine print, like requiring you to sign up for 4 lines plus activation fees, plus. And the end of the day, you've paid for that free phone 3 times over. Pure Talk is my sponsor, my wireless company. They have a much better offer. With a qualifying plan of just $35 a month, you can get a brand new Samsung Galaxy A26 for free. Now, this phone is virtually indestructible. Gorilla Glass captures beautiful wide-angle photos with next-generation camera lenses. All you need to do is switch to Pure Talk. For just $35 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, more than you'll ever need, with mobile hotspot, all on one of America's most dependable 5G networks. Go to puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plan when you switch to Pure Talk. Wireless by Americans for Americans.
Mark Levin, the Great One.
The Great One, Mark Levin.
Dial in now, 877-381-3811.
You know, we started this anti-establishment, anti-ruling class revolution right here behind this microphone 23 years ago, when absolutely nobody else was doing it. There were no podcasters. There was no internet. There wasn't even satellite radio. There was no live streaming. This was it. And when I got my nationally syndicated show, I went right after it. Ironically, we helped make sure that Marco Rubio would be the nominee as part of the Tea Party movement in 2010. We worked very closely with Ted Cruz to help him become the nominee, and then the senator also from Texas. We would later help Mike Lee in the convention that took place there in Utah. We even helped Rand Paul in Kentucky. We helped multiple candidates here, as we in the Tea Party, you, were one and the same. My book, Liberty and Tyranny, came out. And we sold 1.5 million copies to you, a nonfiction book, and not a book about personalities and lives and so forth. I mean a real substantive book. And that book came out in the Tea Party simultaneously, spontaneously. We spent a lot of time at the various rallies. The first time I met Donald Trump, was it 2015 or 2016? 2015. On the back steps of the Capitol building, thousands of us turned out. Donald Trump came out. We met. And since then, we've been very, very tight, of course. But that said, what's going on in Florida right now is a disgrace. It's the ruling class establishment. So I want to go on with this excellent piece from The Federalist by Joy Pullman. DeSantis is term limited. Well, let me do it this way. Primary battles backdrop the invective-laden, highly publicized spat between the governor and the House. Perez, who's the speaker, this guy is a liberal Republican, a corporatist, is also term limited and rumored to be ready to run for mayor of Miami, an open seat in a Democrat-friendly locale. The current Republican Miami mayor demanded DeSantis reinstitute COVID restrictions and supports high-cost energy. But he wouldn't. DeSantis is term limited out in January 2027, and his wife may seek his position. DeSantis rode high on transforming a politically contested Florida into a supermajority Republican state that voted for his reelection in 2022 by 19 points, the largest margin for a Florida governor in 40 years, largest margin ever for a Republican. But he burned some of the capital on a failed primary, President Trump, in 2023. How come Rubio didn't burn capital in 2016, I wonder? Even while delivering Florida big for Trump that cycle. That is term limit, and DeSantis' effective 2024 support for culturally conservative ballot measures protecting Florida from legalized weed. He was protecting it from companies that would have made a fortune, foreign companies from Canada. And unlimited abortion resharpened the knives of the big business donor class in Florida. The establishment. That party wing now advertises itself as pro-Trump while continuing to suffocate Trump and DeSantis policies that their voters love. This threatens Republican victories in the state long-term and Florida's policy leadership across the country. Some Florida Republicans even participated in a Communist Party-connected smear campaign to block 3 of Governor DeSantis' January appointments to the University of West Florida's 13-member Board of Trustees. Students for Socialism and Party for Socialism and Liberation activists at UWF helped create and amplify false claims of quote-unquote controversy and quote-unquote bigotry with 200-person protests against DeSantis appointee Scott Yenner, according to USA Today. He's an Idaho professor, prolific scholarly author, policy hand with a history of facing student protests for publicly stating his basic truths, such as men and women are different, feminism hurts society, and family is more important than money. The Party for Socialism and Liberation is a quote-unquote revolutionary communist party that urges a revolutionary overturn of capitalism and backs feminist gender theory, according to its website. So Yenner's many public statements supporting marriage and sex differences triggered protests and false accusations from Marxist students, media, UWF faculty. Thanks to weak Republicans, their witch hunt worked. Some Republicans, including Ethics Committee Chairman Senator Don Gates, Senator Alex Katayud, and Senator Randy Fine, now U.S. Congressman, I regret having backed this guy, even applied the communist smears to other UWF appointees because the majority voted for Yenner as board chairman. Fine filed an amendment to Senate Bill 1312 to remove Yenner's position. Republican Representative Alex Andrade, who led attacks on Casey DeSantis' charitable efforts, filed a similar amendment in the House, and they hysterically claimed Yenner and anyone who works with him hate women and oppose female education. So here you have three Republicans using Communist Party propaganda against DeSantis, his candidate, and his wife. You even have some of these Republicans who accused DeSantis of anti-Semitism. Unbelievable. Sick. Sick. Yenner's wife works, and she and their daughter went to college. He helped start a premier classical school that educates women far more robustly. The most public institution, celebrates their participation in sports. But they smeared the guy. Yet on April 9, Yenner stepped down from his provisional status on the UWF board ahead of an expected committee vote against confirming him. Appointee Gates Garcia also resigned from the board on April 17, likely expecting to lose his vote. Appointee Adam Kissel, a former Trump administration official, lost his committee vote 5-4 on April 22, thanks to this guy Gates and Republican Senator Jennifer Bradley voting with Democrats. Gates represents Pensacola. I wonder if he's related to our boy Matt Gates, where UWF resides, an increasingly purple locale that strenuously opposes making college work better for students and taxpayers. I think there was genuine concern and fear that UWF would become the next new College of Florida, which did need to be rebuilt from the bottom up. They didn't want that. Kissel, also a trustee for Southern Wesleyan University, a board member for the National Association of Scholars, noted that typically trustees simply co-sign college presidents and faculty. A university employee even gave him. So here's DeSantis fighting these colleges, trying to put conservatives on these boards and in these positions. These communist elements, literally, that's what they self-proclaim, put together these smear tactics, which are then picked up by Republicans, apparently by this guy Fine. Again, I didn't know any of this, among others, to attack him, to attack the people he's supporting. DeSantis' appointments mess with state lawmakers' penchant for treating education as a patronage system, Sabatini said. They want to be able to push and advocate for people in their own political system, staffers, lobbyists, supporters, donors, that are part of their little crew, to get no-show jobs at the university for fundraising or planning or development, etc. He said, of course, you can't say that publicly, so the pretext is Scott's a racist or a sexist or whatever. Now, Florida's legislative session will now extend through January 6 as lawmakers tussle over relieving property taxes that have soared with inflated home values. That's yet another issue. Perez, this guy, this Republican, this corporatist who wants to be mayor of Miami, this guy Perez, the speaker, has fought DeSantis on for no clear endgame except publicly trashing the governor. Perez's office did not respond for comment. This spring, the Florida House passed House Bills 1321 and 1267 to force out conservative personnel DeSantis had been installing in state universities, and end his recruitment of nationally recognized conservative policy experts in education. It would require them to live in Florida and be quickly ousted via short-term limits, as well as create more bureaucracy and personnel changes, especially for college trustees and presidents. The Florida Senate refused to consider DeSantis' nomination of Moms for Liberty co-founder Tina Dukashvich. I've met her. She's fantastic. But they stopped her. The Republican State Senate for an ethics commission position, which removed her from the post on April 29. It's likely retaliation For Moms for Liberty activists primarying weak Republicans over DEI, school lockdowns, and allowing kids to see queer porn. I guess that's a biggie with the Republican establishment. Perez, the fraud Republican, also fought to undo state tort reform with House Bill 1551 and Senate Bill 947. You know why? They need the trial lawyers. These liberal Republicans, these phony establishment Republicans who play footsie with the Democrats, they need the trial lawyers. Now, these would increase insurance costs and attorney's fees, said public testimony on the House bill, but he doesn't care, Perez. He wants to be mayor of a Democrat city, while forcing Republicans to defend policy victories they've already established in previous sessions. The drama has included this Perez-led House not considering bills to establish open carry, so he's blocking that, to ban Marxist queer sex flags from government properties. He has blocked that. What do you think about this, folks? Perez's speakership has been marked by middle school level reprisals and drama while he projects the same onto DeSantis. It seems we're getting to this regularly while DeSantis has a temper tantrum, he told the corporate media. Besides the special session gavel out, gavel in stunt, when it came to a major immigration issue, the leaders of both chambers worked to override DeSantis' vetoes. The first time Florida's legislature has done so in 15 years. The last happened as a legislative rebuke after Governor Charlie Crist left the Republican Party. So this guy Perez has led the establishment, the RINOs, working with the Democrats to basically overthrow DeSantis. After DeSantis proposed more stringent immigration enforcement than Speaker Perez, one Monday morning in February, Representative Mike Caruso, Republican Palm Beach, came into work and found his corner office cleared out. He's an outspoken DeSantis ally, eventually found his goods piled on a different floor on top of his American flag, he told the Federalist. This is this guy Perez. For disagreeing on immigration policy, Caruso said Perez also stripped his chairmanship of the Economic Infrastructure Committee, denied all his approach. So the guy's effectively a mobster. He runs the place mafia style, this guy Perez. He's selling out. He's selling out to all the special interests, to all the moneyed interests, to all the corporate interests. He's selling out, using the RINOs, the Republican establishment, to strike back, using academia to strike back. This guy Perez, he's poison. Poison. There's a great underlying rumbling from the members that they feel tired of being retaliated on, abused, forced to vote certain votes that they did not come up to Tallahassee to do in fear of retaliation. From Perez, says Caruso. He thinks if the Speaker can't get it together on the already delayed state budget, a no-confidence vote will become a majority position. Well, we here on the Mark Levin Show support a no-confidence vote. We support our Governor DeSantis. We support all the tremendous policies that have been instituted in Florida. And I'll be damned as one citizen of Florida, one resident of Florida, if I allow some candy-ass establishment corporatist Republican who wants to be mayor of Miami to sell out the whole state. His name is Perez. He's the supposed Speaker of the House. He's supposedly leading the Republicans. He's leading them to defeat. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Don't get suckered into the same old free phone game by Big Wireless that comes with a lot of fine print, like requiring you to sign up for 4 lines plus activation fees, plus. And the end of the day, you've paid for that free phone 3 times over. Pure Talk is my sponsor, my wireless company. They have a much better offer. With a qualifying plan of just $35 a month, you can get a brand new Samsung Galaxy A26 for free. Now, this phone is virtually indestructible. Gorilla Glass captures beautiful wide-angle photos with next-generation camera lenses. All you need to do is switch to Pure Talk. For just $35 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, more than you'll ever need, with mobile hotspot, all on one of America's most dependable 5G networks. Go to puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plan when you switch to Pure Talk. Wireless by Americans for Americans. You know, just like the Democrats, the ruling class establishment never stops trying to grab power. And I told you this election was not about blue collar versus white collar, the rich versus the poor, not that Marxist claptrap. No. This election was about the ruling class establishment versus we the people. The ruling class establishment versus we the people. That's what it was about. And they're not going to give up, and they're not going to give up easily. And this is the problem. And they try and smear and destroy anybody who gets in their way, whether it's a Fetterman or a DeSantis or a Trump or whatever it is. This is something we've been calling out here for 23 years. And it's not going to go away. This is what the forever wars. You know, these forever war things, it's not just military operations. The forever war is a war good versus evil. That's what it is. Open your Bible. That's what it is. The enemy within. The president was exactly right. Jefferson talked about it. Lincoln talked about it. Others talked about it. There is an enemy within. We know who they are. Don't call us enemy within, you neo-Nazis. Oh, okay, got it. And so there is a forever war, good versus evil. And if good gives up, then evil wins. Then there's no battle. There's no resistance. It's the same in foreign policy. It's the same in military activities, but you got to be smart about picking your battles. That's the key. You got to be smart about picking your battles. Now, that said, the establishment, the ruling class, so forth and so on, they don't want these cuts. They want higher taxes. They'll have you focus on billionaires and millionaires while they're really coming for you, because that's what they do. And even when a guy has this fantastic record as governor, there's never been a better governor than DeSantis. I'm telling you this. I moved to Florida in large part because he was running the place. It takes no intelligence, no wisdom, no prudence, nothing to be an establishment ruling class Republican. And they're losers. They're absolute losers. And your taxes will go up, the special interests will get funded, and all the rest. And so in Florida, this battle needs to be fought. And there's a lot of conservatives in Florida, and there's a lot of conservative representatives, a lot of conservative congressmen that need to fight this too. This guy Perez, he's kryptonite. He's kryptonite to anybody who believes in free markets, low taxes, and sound government. Perez is his name. Lots more when I return. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Joe Biden was with the BBC radio yesterday. I don't know what's with this guy. I really don't, but he's been in politics his entire life. He can't give it up. That's obvious. So when something like this, cut 15, go.
Would you have withdrawn earlier, given someone else a bigger chance?
I don't think it would have mattered. We left at a time when we had a good candidate. She was fully funded, and what happened was,
yeah, tell us.
I had become what we had set out to do no one thought we could do. And become so successful in our agenda, it was hard to say, no, I'm going to stop now. I meant what I said when I started, that I think I'm prepared to hand this to the next generation. It's a transition government. But things move so quickly that it made it difficult to walk away.
It's called your wife. She is a power-hungry egomaniac. She likes all the pomp and circumstance. She likes all the freebies. So do you, Joe. You spent your own life on the public dole. They were so successful, ladies and gentlemen. Cut 17, go.
What did you make of those scenes in the Oval Office? President Trump and President Zelensky?
Oh, nice question. Nice question. Nice setup for a jerk like this. Go ahead.
I found it
unbelievable.
Sort of beneath America, the way that took place. And the way we talk about now that, well, it's just the Gulf of America. Maybe we're going to have to take back
By the way,
Panama.
before he gets going, the really consequential presidents do stuff like Donald Trump's doing. Look throughout American history. They don't just sit there and manage the massive bureaucracy and keep spending money and keep taxing. We've had Republicans like this. I'm not going to embarrass them. Some of them are gone and so forth. I mean, Reagan was a big standout trying to reverse this, and of course they smeared him. But we've had presidents, I can mention, we've had Gerald Fords and the Bushes and people like that, and they just are basically, in many ways, bookmarks. But when you have consequential presidents, they do things like Trump's doing, or like Reagan's doing, and the destruction of the Soviet Union, and massive tax cuts and massive economic growth, or Calvin Coolidge and the things he did, or for that matter, James Polk and Jefferson and Washington and others and Lincoln, and these were consequential presidents who did consequential things. Trump's talking about Greenland because it's in our national security interest. Look at the geography. Look at the Arctic Circle. The Russians and now the Chinese are building military bases there. He sees the waterways. He sees what needs to be done. He's looking at Greenland, and he's saying, what the hell? You got this massive landmass with about 14 people and 100,000 seals, and he's thinking, well, we got to do something about this. He sees what the communist Chinese were doing to the Panama Canal. He said, no, not while I'm president. And I hope and I feel and I pray he does the same thing with Iran. Except he's got the whispers in his ears, the fifth column isolationists. It's a phrase now that the fifth column isolationists hate. Stop calling us fifth column isolationists. There are things I want to call you, but that's the classiest one I can think of. Anyway, you can't be a consequential president if you're not consequential. It's like any other part of life, for that matter. Go ahead. Next one.
We need to acquire Greenland. Maybe Canada should be. What the hell's going on here?
What the hell's going on here? He would have been happy if Puerto Rico became a state. He would have been happy if D.C. was treated as a state. Well, that's American territory. Right, territory. And in terms of D.C., it's a city. It's considered an enclave. The District of Columbia. Go ahead.
What president ever talks like that?
Many have talked like that. Actually, many. Go ahead.
Who we are. We're about freedom, democracy, opportunity.
No, you're not about freedom and democracy. You never were. You're not about freedom and democracy. These are words that you've learned to memorize. You were always about power, Joe. Power. You blew off the courts. The Supreme Court, you packed the courts, wide open border, destroying our country through illegal immigration. That's not about freedom and democracy, Joe. That's about a schmuck who opens the border and wants to change the country. Your attacks on the great state of Georgia because they were trying to tighten up their election laws. Your race baiting, disgusting. Anti-Semitism broke out during your presidency. People don't remember this. It was during his presidency it broke out It became a poison throughout the country, and you did nothing. You did absolutely nothing about it. We know that now because Trump's doing everything he can to stop it. But not you. In fact, you helped fuel it. There's so much wrong with you and what you did. I don't want to bore my audience and go through it all right now, but democracy is not what I think of, or freedom or opportunity, when I think of you and your pathetic presidency. That's for sure. And it is and was. And that's the way it'll be remembered. And all the people who supported it and backed it, including in the media, while they think they've gotten away with it, quote unquote, the fact of the matter is they'll be remembered for this too. History will remember them. As it well should. The guy was a disgrace, and he'll always be a disgrace. Rachel Maddow on The Late Show. You know, on the networks, I'm not talking about Fox, on the networks, there's not a single conservative comedy show. ABC, NBC, CBS, it's the same damn thing, the same morons. You can move one from one network to the other. There are 412 writers that are supposed to be funny. You can move them one to the other. There's absolutely no diversity in terms of the personalities. So Rachel Maddow is on The Late Show yesterday. This is a buffoon who has no talent, who lied and lied and lied about Russia collusion. And her punishment was, okay, just for that, we're paying you $25 million for one show a week. Right, Mr. Producer? Now they reduced it to 20. $20 million for one show a week? $20 million at all? For any show? But she's got pearls of wisdom. Cut 18, go.
I think it's also true that the people who warned us about how bad this was going to be, the people who were really hysterical, like really the doomsayers, they were all right.
All right, shut up, idiot. I don't even want to hear from you. And get a different haircut. You look like a moron. Yeah, I say that, Mr. Producer? I did. I've got more. Let's see here. I want you to hear too much to do in one show. Cuts 3, 4, Mr. Producer. I want you to save for tomorrow. I want you to save for tomorrow the great Elise Stefanik. She is one of a kind. This woman is unbelievable. She'll be on my Saturday show on Fox, by the way. She's just fantastic. So I want you to save that. Save 5, 6, you know, the relevant clips, because I want the world to hear much of what she did. It's unbelievable. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, it's a pleasure to have a longtime friend on this program, Victoria Coates, who has fought the conservative battles for years and years, was a top advisor to Senator Cruz, now a senior official over at the Great Heritage Foundation, and her expertise is foreign policy, and she's really, really good at it. And she's written a fantastic book, The Battle for the Jewish State, How Israel and America Can Win. First, Victoria Coates, welcome. I have a quick question for you. Are you Jewish?
I think I'm honorary, Mark.
Are you a warmonger? I want to clear the table here.
Well, interestingly, I am actually somebody who has never started a war. And
are you a neocon? I just want to make sure. Are you a neocon?
Well, I've always been conservative, and
yes,
so I don't think I can be a neocon.
No,
I'm just a conservative.
So of course I'm joking, but you're actually quite thoughtful, and you do tremendous research, and you really know your subject. So first of all, what motivated you to write a book, The Battle for the Jewish State, How Israel and America Can Win?
Well, it really came out of my experience after October 7th of last year, and we all remember where we were when it began to become clear what was happening in Israel that horrific day. And what I found was I started getting the same 4 questions from mostly an American audience, but also international interlocutors. The first being, how did this happen? How did we get here? The second is, why is Israel an indispensable ally to the United States? The third is, if not Israel, is there an option in the region? The answer is yes, there are two, the Palestinians and the Iranians, and we can get into that. And the fourth is what's next? And as those questions started to fall into those four buckets, I went to my publisher, Encounter, last April and just said, look, to Roger Kimball, who's the head of it, I have this book in me. And he said, can you give it to me in 90 days? I said, I think I can. And Kevin Roberts said, do it. we'll see you in 90 days. And I said,
exactly.
Okay. And we did it. We got it done.
And you did get it done. So let's dig into the fantastic book. What is indispensable about this relationship between the United States and Israel?
Well, this is the history that I think most Americans don't know, going back now, 80 years almost. And the founding of modern Israel in 1948, obviously Truman as president heroically recognized Israel 11 minutes after its founding. That was a great thing. But then you have a couple of decades where it's really an equivocal relationship between Israel and the United States. I don't think either country really knew what to make of the relationship. And it grows through the 60s and 70s, and the value of Israel as a partner to the United States becomes more clear. And what was interesting to me, Mark, it's really under your old boss, Ronald Reagan, where this becomes a very serious issue. And Reagan is the first one to sign an MOU with Israel, which is an issue we're still grappling with at Heritage today. What did those memorandums look like between Israel and the United States? The intelligence sharing, the missile defense cooperation. Our first free trade agreement was with Israel under Reagan. So all of this gets put in place in the 80s and then just takes off in terms of an incredibly valuable relationship for the United States, really the partner of choice in the Middle East.
And what is it about Israel that's valuable to the United States? Intelligence, technological development, the sharing of, really, the creation between Jews and Christians and so forth. What is it exactly?
I would embrace the and on that one. It's all of the above. And one of the things I deal with in the book is the importance of Judeo-Christian values to both Israel and the United States in our founding. We're both very young countries in the grand scheme of things. If we look at what's happening at the Vatican this week, and this goes back, thousands of years. Modern, and obviously Israel, its identity also goes back thousands of years, but modern Israel, 1948, modern America, 1776. So compared to the Europeans, for example, these are new nation states, and everything Israel has done in this really short period of time has been of huge value to the United States. And one of the things I go into in the book is that all of these folks who want to boycott Israel, want to somehow divorce themselves from any content from Israel, well, they're going to have a hard time eating because of the bioagriculture advances of Israel, including, say, the cherry tomato. They're going to have trouble moving around. They won't have ways. They're going to have trouble communicating. They won't have an iPhone. So, yes, it's security. Yes, it's intelligence. But it's so many more things for both the Israeli and the American people. And, I just wanted to put that all in one place so everybody could read about it and have that information.
And isn't it interesting, whatever happened to the idea that we join with countries that have shared values and in many ways shared histories and shared cultures, and in other words, friends. For instance, if I have a neighbor who's a very wonderful person and somebody's attacking them, I want to come and help them. I'm not sitting there saying, well, I don't know, did they cook me breakfast the other day? What do I get out of this? Do you see what I mean? Sometimes there's a moral or value obligation, no?
There is, but then there's also just the enormous benefits we get out of this. I keep going back to issues of national identity. Israel has an incredible, we were just They're together. It's an incredibly strong sense of national identity. In the best parts of the United States, we still have that. And our two countries share so much, and that is so valuable, and that creates this tremendous synergy between us.
Talking to Victoria Coates, I'd like to hold you over the break here, Victoria. The book is The Battle for the Jewish State, How Israel and America Can Win. You can get it at Amazon.com, on any of my social sites. She's fantastic. You're going to love this book. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
We're here with Victoria Coates, extraordinarily smart lady who used to work top foreign policy advisor to Senator Cruz, among other things. Now a senior foreign policy expert over at the Heritage Foundation, one of our favorite organizations. The book is The Battle for the Jewish State, How Israel and America Can Win. It's very important because there's a lot of people, Victoria Coates, who are trying to divide Israel and the United States. What's in it for us? Israel's dragging us into this and that and the other thing. Doesn't Iran talk about destroying the United States and Israel? Isn't Iran trying to build intercontinental ballistic missiles that they don't need to attack Israel? Tell us about that.
Well, I will, Mark. If I could just take a quick second, though, to note that the walk-in music to this segment was Kashmir, which is Chase Utley's walk-up song.
Yeah, you're good.
It's the only song my kid ever learned to play on the cello, so I know that. Yeah, special time. But no, this is the critical thing. Is there is this narrative that is gaining traction, unfortunately, on the right, that Israel's going to drag the United States into war over Iran. And what that fails to recognize, first and foremost, as you just said, Israel's the little Satan and we're the big Satan. So we can abandon Israel. And Iran, I don't think they would actually succeed, but if Iran somehow destroyed Israel, they're not going to then turn to baking cookies. If you're battling Satan, you're going to get the little Satan, then you're going on to the big Satan. We're next. So if we permit a nuclear Iran, what we're permitting is the targeting of America with that. And the second fallacy in this narrative is that any action against Iran will result in some kind of massive conflagration, regional, if not global, resulting in thousands of civilian casualties. This just isn't historically accurate. We've had two Israeli strikes on both the Iraqi and the Syrian nuclear facilities, both targeted, very limited, if any, civilian casualties, no war. We've also, and I think this is a critical point, we've seen Israel navigate for the last 15 months a seven-front attack on the Jewish state from the region, including two direct attacks from Iran on Israel without igniting a broader war. Israel doesn't want a broader war. The United States doesn't want a broader war. The Iranians are the ones who have been the provocateurs. There is a very targeted surgical way to do this. The president is completely in his rights to pursue a diplomatic solution. I would not say his patience should be infinite on that, but if it fails, a targeted strike does not then inevitably mean a broader war.
But the Iranians with nuclear weapons and ICBMs is a perpetual threat and dagger at the throat of the United States. If they don't attack us, they will bully us, they will threaten us, they will boycott us. Isn't that right? Doesn't that open up the nuclear Pandora's box? I mean, we're looking at Pakistan and India today. Can you imagine Iran having a nuclear weapon and threatening all its neighbors? And what would its neighbors do? Are they going to sit still? Won't Saudi Arabia get one too?
No, they've said they will. And so this is the other piece here. President Trump's been very clear. No nuclear weapons for Iran for precisely this reason. He hates nuclear proliferation. He is right to do so. I support him in that. And we don't want to have to worry about every border skirmish that goes on in the Middle East the way we're looking at India and Pakistan for fear that it's going to turn into some kind of major thing that will drag in the United States. So this is the place to cut this off right now. We have the means to do it. And so I strongly believe, the president should stick by his red lines. We cannot tolerate a nuclear Iran. It's not just, some random thing far away. This is going to have major consequences for the United States, all of our regional partners and allies, but also us here at home, because bear in mind, they haven't just made massive progress on their nuclear program during the Biden administration. They've been testing all sorts of missiles, so-called satellites, all of these other projectiles by which they can get these things, not just to Israel and Europe, but also to the United States.
Wouldn't they also be in a position to dictate foreign policy in the region to us? That is, if you provide Israel with support, and people forget, Saudi Arabia is scared to death of this too. They want nothing to do with it. The UAE wants nothing to do with it. Jordan wants nothing to do with it. I mean, most of these Arab countries, Iran's a Persian country. Most of these Arab countries, not all, some of them are terrorist states like Qatar and so forth, but most of these Arab countries, they stand with us. They stand with Israel. Even if they don't do it openly, they don't want Iran getting this because they know Iran will use it to dictate policy to their countries. And by the way, and try and knock off some of their leaders too.
No, it will. And I think Saudi Arabia is key here because Iran has always, the Iranian regime rather, not the Iranian people, have always been very hostile to the House of Saud, particularly with the control of the two main mosques at Mecca and Medina, and they have always held that the House of Saud is an illegitimate custodian of those mosques. So, in a way, you look at that nuclear threat, it first would be turned on Israel. It will second be turned on Saudi Arabia. And in a funny way, that actually provides an opportunity for closer cooperation between Israel and Saudi Arabia. I know we're all very interested in the president's trip next week. I think it's absolutely the right message that this first president to have two first foreign trips abroad. I remember when we were planning the trip in 2017, which went from Riyadh, involved the first flight of Air Force One from Riyadh to Tel Aviv, a direct flight, and refused to mask that with some sort of stop-off. It was very important to the president that he go from one to the other, that we're going to reprise that trip to Saudi Arabia next week. And it reinforced the importance of that relationship. And look at what might happen, between Israel and Saudi Arabia. And this was one of the most interesting narratives in the book, is to go from 1981 with Israel deeply concerned about a potential arms sale of AWACS by Reagan to Saudi Arabia, and trying to prevent that, to the last chapter in the book when we're looking at a potential agreement between Saudi Arabia and Israel. That's a tremendously hopeful trajectory, and that's really what I hope President Trump can capitalize on.
Isn't the best way to prevent an all-out war is to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon? Because doesn't that mean if Iran, at least for a period of time, is the only one of the Muslim states there to have a nuclear weapon, that whether it's Yemen or whether it's Lebanon and so forth and so on, it will really be able to throw its weight around, and not just with Israel, but these other countries?
No, they will. And we have to look at what Israel's done over the last 15 months to diminish their position in terms of degrading Hamas, Hezbollah, now apparently turning their attention, well-deserved, on the Houthi. But then also you think about nuclear capabilities. I'm not going to say whether Israel does or doesn't have nuclear capabilities, but even the rumor of that has not caused a regional arms race over the last half century. And what we've heard is from our Arab partners and allies is if the Iranians get a nuke, though, whoa, all bets are off. We all want to try to get one. So this will cause tremendous instability in the region, and one the world can ill afford. It's one thing about India and Pakistan. Now you would have a nuclear arms race around some of the world's most significant energy assets. That should be intolerable to everyone. And one thing I would add, Mark, is we should all also be looking at China on this. China has been buying now 2 million barrels a day of oil from Iran, which they're cycling through Malaysia. They are financing this. Any stink from this should stick to China. They're permitting it, and they may well be encouraging it. They may well want a nuclear Iran to distract us in the event they want to go against Taiwan. But this is a bigger picture than just the Middle East. So I think that's what demands our attention.
You make a great point, because China views it as a bigger picture. Russia, North Korea, they all view it as a bigger picture. They want their alliance, and they're getting it with Iran, because Iran not only provides oil, but they provide drone technology and other things as well. So you have this alliance between the Marxists and the Islamists in North Korea and China, and, of course, the Islamists and the fascists in Russia. But let's look real fast before we end this. And by the way, the book is great. You're listening to Victoria Coates, The Battle for the Jewish State, How Israel and America Can Win. You hear people in our country all the time, what I call the fifth column isolationists. They go on and on that really our support for Ukraine could cause World War III and a nuclear war because Russia keeps threatening us. And then they say, well, so what if Iran gets a nuclear weapon? It's manageable. Well, which one is it? If Iran gets a nuclear weapon and they say, you keep supporting Israel, we're going to cause World War III, or you keep supporting Saudi Arabia, or you keep supporting Jordan, whatever it is, that can cause World War III. So that will be their position, the same crowd, as they, in other words, our allies will never be able to depend on us if they get their way, because the enemy will have a nuclear weapon.
Well, the good news about that crowd is they're actually quite small. I know they're quite vocal, but they're small. And I tend to look at the United States Congress, and I see one in the Senate and one in the House. And that is a concern. And, I would have my agreements and disagreements with both parties. But I think what the key is here is to make a clear case to the American people, because we at Heritage Foundation, we are not looking for monsters abroad to slay. Senator Schmidt was with us today making exactly that point, but also making the point that we need to revitalize our industrial defense base, that we need to be strong at home. We need to be able to project power. That doesn't mean we want to get involved in every foreign war. And so I think it's making the case to the American people when things are in their best interests, and explaining that to them in terms that they buy into, that have currency with them. And if you do that, and you're not constantly advocating for engagement in places that are not in our vital national security interests, we can have tremendous success globally. We can have the next American century. I believe this passionately, and I think Israel is a critical part of that, as are our other Arab, Middle Eastern partners and allies.
Well, folks, I encourage you to get this book, The Battle for the Jewish State, How Israel and America Can Win. You can get it at Amazon.com. We've linked to it on all my platforms. You're listening to Victoria Coates. She's absolutely terrific. Victoria, we've got to leave, unfortunately. I could listen to this all day, but we wish you all the best, and thank you for writing this great book.
Thank you, Mark. Take care.
All right, take care of yourself. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Can I encourage you to do one other thing, a Levin surge? Those of you who haven't yet, go to your TV, set up your recording, your DVR, or whatever you use on your TV. Some smart TVs have different methodologies. 8 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. Sunday's Mother's Day. Many of you won't be home for Life, Liberty, and Levin. Go ahead and set your DVR so you have it. We do this in our own home. We set the DVR for Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, just in case we're out. There's no hiding the fact that happens from time to time, not often, from time to time. That way you have the program automatically. Just set your DVR. If you'll do that now in a Levin search, I'd be very grateful, because I really want you to watch these shows. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine, the men and women in Israel, and you, the American people. You make the world work. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for being here, and have a wonderful night.